Yep, you're all. It started. Go ahead.
All right. So this is Judy Doshade. I'm calling to order this meeting of the Housing and Development Community Development Committee of the Common Council. We have noticed this meeting, and we have present members: Kelly Kimbrough, Mr. Conti, and Ms. Love, who are committee members, and it's possible that Mr. Robinson will be joining us. Due to the unusual circumstances here, we are limiting public participation, but we did let people, applicants for grants, know that they could write in or they could call in. And I just want clarification from Faye Andrews. You had conversations, you had sent an email to all the applicants.
I did.
And you had conversations. Was there anybody, I just want to deal with the issue of, was there anybody who wanted to be included on a bridge?
No, there was nobody
Okay.
that wanted to call in.
So for that purpose, we do not need to take care of the public and making the bridge accessible at this particular point in time. I do note that we did not notice to the public specifically that this particular meeting would be closed, but we also have not had anybody show up, and Ms. Andrews was downstairs, and it is now 10 minutes after the official posted start time. So if the public had shown up at this point, I think we would have made participation available through the bridge arrangements. So we are here to discuss Resolution 17.31.20R. We are also here, we have a habit of letting people who have been notified of their potential awards, of the opportunity to be heard, and quote-unquote appeal, make any appeals, make any to this group with regard to their potential awards, or to dispute any findings, etc. It is not a legal requirement of the federal government that we make such appeals, but it has been the habit and seems to be reasonable under typical due process concerns. Due process does not require a hearing in person, to be heard in person. Generally, under these kinds of circumstances, a written appeal would be normal, but we have just gone above and beyond in the past, and under the circumstances today with the coronavirus outbreak, we are following direction and limiting the number of people who are in any one place at any one given time. So with that said, I think we want to recap the resolution. The purpose of this resolution is to make a recommendation to the full council and have the full council then potentially authorize funding for, in this case, the Community Development Block Grant Program, year 46, and it's not actually the funding, it is the funding application that you then submit to the federal government, and that is due on April 15th,
Correct.
Based upon when you got notified of what our funding levels were, which is part of the reason why we are continuing to hold this particular meeting. And so the goal is to potentially approve this resolution with the attachment of what and authorize essentially the mayor to execute the appropriate documents to submit the application to the federal government with the proposed levels of funding for the various programs for which the city of Albany is eligible. Before I proceed with turning it over to Ms. Andrews, to then just recap where we are with things with regard to the proposed funding and also the applicants. Is there anybody else on the committee who wants to say anything?
Just, and you are probably going to get to it. You said you talked to Ms. LeGrone about
I did.
that. So I don't know if you're going to use.
Yeah, I'll fill you in on
Okay,
our
yep, so-
conversation.
So I think having her go over the overall funding program, the budget, which we went over tentatively previously, and in the course of that, talk about the individual grants to.
Sure. So I don't.
And what action has been taken since we met.
Yeah. I haven't made any changes to the budget since we met the last time. I haven't made any changes to it. I did speak. I sent it. What I did was I sent an email with a red receipt out to all of the applicants for the year 46 funding. Told them that if they had anticipated or expected to come tonight, that they could write an appeal to us or call into the conference line. Asked them all to let me know by 3 o'clock, and all I got was two applicants who thanked us for the funding, and another one who just about 20 minutes ago, the Sahaya Dance Art Partners she thanked us for the grant. She wasn't complaining about her grant, but she is hoping that there's an opportunity for additional CDBG funding or help from the federal government for small businesses, who are suffering during this time.
So she wasn't appealing.
She wasn't appealing her funding.
She
She
was the
was
other.
hoping that there will be something down the road, and if there is, would we consider them and that kind of thing. And
It's a reasonable thing to highlight.
it is reasonable, and it is something that HUD is talking about too. One of the things, so there's a 15% cap, from our funding that can be used for public services. That's a statutory limit though, so they can't just say they want to change that. If they want to change that, they have to go through a lot of procedures. But there has been a request by the National Community Development Agency, which is kind of an advocacy group for all of the CPD organizations, to increase funding, send additional CDBG funding to help small businesses and organizations. I don't know if they anticipate that that'll happen. I don't know how it'll be done. I think if we get additional funding after our plan is submitted, we'll have to do a substantial amendment to it. That's what HUD calls it, which will require a new citizen participation process and everything. But that's all really up in the air right now.
Which may require a citizen, depending upon when
Correct.
they decide to do
Yeah.
it and what our situation is here.
Yeah.
So they might need to change that too.
Yep. So, right. So a lot of that is up in the air. But I did speak to In Our Own Voices today.
Why would you be speaking to them?
They're the ones who applied for year 46 funding with a different name for the program that they've been doing. She did feel as though they had a different demographic, but we talked it through. And how I left it with her is they have just started using their year 45 funding. They've also, like the rest of us, stopped all of their programming except for their emergency program, which is what we fund. We partially fund. We don't fund the whole thing, but we partially fund it. So what I said to her was that in light of what's going on and anticipating that they may have additional people coming to them than what they've normally had, there might be a chance that they will run out of funding before the end of year 46. And I said what I asked her to do was to keep me posted and just keep communicating with me. If I have to, I can go to our board and ask for additional funding to get them through year 46. Sorry. I don't think that's out of our. I just feel like with what's going on, we need to maybe make some adjustments to how we do some things when it comes to that kind of thing. She would have to make the request in writing.
And who is she?
Oh, Tiandra Legron.
Okay.
Legron. That's In Our Own Voices. What they do is they provide emergency funding and services to youth who end up having no clothes, no food, and things like that. And I don't see that getting better right now. So how I left it with her was that we would communicate through the program year and see where she was at, and we would go from there. So, I just feel like that's a population that we have to make sure we're taking care of, and if we end up having to use additional funding to help them through that program year, we should do that. I hope that's something that you guys would agree with.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And other than that, I have not gotten any other appeals or requests for funding or changes.
So can I ask you about Sahaya?
Sure.
I was with her.
Oh, when she wrote that?
Yeah, I was with her.
Okay.
Well, she was one of the ones I took the hand for this morning.
Sahaya
Smith. She's art partner, Sahaya Smith, art partner. She's got a dance program that's like a violence prevention program. Sure.
So, is it possible? I mean, would you look into this and getting her some? If you have
if we have
if it's any extra funds or somewhere that you bank some extra money and nobody's using it, is it possible? Because she is really struggling.
I know
she's really struggling.
I know she struggles
all the time.
In a good economy, she does an awful lot with very little bit of money. I know.
Yes.
And so there. I think what I'm hearing is there's a group working with Capitalize Albany for small businesses to see what assistance there's going to be for them. I'm not saying no to this. I think we're in such early stages that it's hard to say what CDBG funding will be coming down, but I'm anticipating that we'll get additional funding, and then businesses will be able to apply, I think, for it.
Okay.
It's so, that just came out, I think it was like last night or something.
Okay.
Yeah, Capitalize Albany, I don't know if you said they sent something out with some information and resources and links, including for small business, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll tell
Capitalize Albany.
Yeah.
I'll tell her to get in touch with Capitalize
So,
But
Albany.
I don't know,
and I want to
but,
note that
check
this
them out.
includes.
I don't know if there's anything there, but.
No,
Right.
She
Right.
so she went by the community loan fund. I took her there this morning, and she applied for a little small grant down there. Hopefully, she applied for a line of credit.
Good.
That's what she applied for, and they're supposed to let her know in a couple of days. So that's the community loan fund down at 255. So if somebody's looking, they'll give. I'm not saying they can get it. I'm just saying that's what
There are
we
some
took it to.
things
There's
out
some
there,
resources.
Yeah, I
So
think it's
I did.
something,
I took her there, and then she talked to the guy from the County Youth Bureau.
The Youth Bureau?
Yes.
Yeah.
And she had a small check that was being mailed out Thursday.
Okay.
He said it's going in the mail Thursday, so she should have it by Monday,
All right.
Tuesday at the latest.
Okay.
So
Yeah. So what we can, I think, and don't quote me on this, I'm going to have to check with. I have a compliance person, but if she's in a bad situation, I think we can give an advance also on her funding.
okay.
We'll have to, because the program year hasn't started yet, I
Right.
don't know if we can do that till June 1st.
Did she apply last year? Did she get
No.
funding last year?
No,
She didn't get
missed
nothing.
but she did have funding that she stretched through last year. She didn't apply last year, so she's reapplied this year. So, yeah, we'll just have to keep talking about it.
Yes. Yeah.
If that new funding comes out, I think the only way we're going to be able to use it is by doing another RFP. I don't really think there's any other fair way to do it, right?
All right.
I mean, if there's additional funds.
Right. However, I also want to note that this budget calls for $165,000, 166 if I round up, in economic development to go to Capitalize Albany.
Oh, yeah.
And you and I have talked about the fact that is, provides some funding for staffing, but also there is they use some of that funding for the facade grant improvement program, which they make a decision on every 6 months or every year or something like that about how they're going to use some of that funding.
Right.
So
Maybe that's a different
I
way to use it.
encourage
Yeah.
both of you to talk to Sarah Reginelli about. I don't believe that there's been. I don't believe that they have been using all the funding that is available, that is made available in their budgets for facade improvement programs.
Okay.
So if that is being underutilized, and maybe there's a greater need for something like this.
That's a good idea, yeah. I will talk with her.
I mean, because there's no requirement, as far as I understand, that this go for a facade improvement program.
No.
But I think making sure that some of this funding, of that $165,000, is truly getting out to the community and not just being used for their staff.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. And I can talk with her, and I think it's going to be so, I don't know. I think we're going to have to think differently about the way some of our funding is.
Well, this is also,
Yeah.
you know, either we're going to be lucky and somehow or other have nipped this whole thing in the bud, or we're looking at many
Changing
months.
our
You know,
thought
it's one thing to
process.
deal with these kind of close downs of restaurants and you know, and people, you know, at the lower, you know, which directly affects people at the lower end of the pay scale. You know, and other closures, and that, you know, I'm glad that Congress is calling attention to the fact that people need direct funding, and that it shouldn't all just go to bail out corporations without there
seems like a
being
lot
sure
still
that
is.
there's, you know,
Yeah.
relief.
Well, I got places that are closing and that may not hopefully
Yeah.
reopen. I got,
Yeah.
especially retail also.
Right.
Small, you know,
Yeah.
retail businesses in the neighborhood who are struggling as it is.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what a lot of the landlords do, because, you know, if these businesses can close and not pay rent,
Right.
that would help a lot
Yeah.
with them getting restarted.
Yeah.
But I have one restaurant and you know, a couple of restaurants in my neighborhood which they're not only paying rent, it's not a matter of them paying rent, they got mortgages.
Right.
You know,
Well, some of mine are also owner-occupied retail,
Right,
which
Yeah.
have the burden of paying really high property taxes
right.
Yeah.
that are very difficult to, you know, be retail nowadays and afford some of those taxes, which are going up.
right. So I don't want to get off
But not get off
course,
target.
right.
But we have a lot
It's
of,
hard
a
when
lot
we
of
have
problems
these
here.
days.
Right.
So is all that money that goes, is the 165 that they get? I just have my notes for
it's a
small
small
business.
business
But it's not
technical
all for,
assistance.
it's not limited to the side.
No.
They,
Right.
and
Right. So it's not in.
It's supposed to be small business
small business,
technical
small
assistance is
Right.
what the employee is supposed to be working on.
Right.
But
okay,
Right.
but
So.
that's a lot of money.
yeah.
That's
Fair.
that's a lot of money for an entity that has a lot of other resources right
Yeah,
now.
that's fair. And yeah. So I'll talk with Sarah. I know there's a meeting tomorrow that I know I can't participate in, but she's going to loop me in. Well, we've already discussed talking to each other afterwards. So.
Would it be appropriate for us to say that to add to that funding is contingent upon at least 50% reaching small businesses?
Well, it's all supposed to reach small businesses in the assistance that they give them. I don't know if it's. I don't know.
Do we
if
know
can do
how it's
that.
been utilized over there?
Yeah, it's mostly staff persons. I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not sugarcoating it. It is mostly
Yeah.
staff persons, but they do also help some small businesses in the area.
Yeah, I know Stewart sent out some checks to people that applied for the grant in December,
Yeah.
and Stewart sent out, like Brenda Robertson,
Yeah.
she might have got like $500.
Yeah.
I don't know if she got it yet, but they
Yeah,
told
right.
her that there was good. So all the letters are out for the little small business around here. So some of the checks is up to $2,000, but they sent her letters saying that she got $500 because this is the first time she applied. But their grant money is going out
Yeah.
soon also.
You're saying Stewart's?
Yeah, Stewart's right over here.
Stewart's gives small
Oh,
grants.
grants.
And Capitalize also has, what is that grant they give? There's like a $5,000.
Is it?
I want to say, it's not innovation, but I feel.
Amplify?
Amplify,
Is it
yeah.
Amplify?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
yeah.
but that's
Yeah,
kind
they
of
have
like
that
the
one
special,
too.
yeah.
Is
it's
that
a
a
one-time-
special event kind of
No,
thing?
it's,
Yeah.
well,
Or
it
is
can,
it-
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
other
it's
things.
like
Things that do-
Restaurant Week, which the restaurants in my neighborhood are not happy with
Yeah.
because they're like, oh, now I'm supposed to give some sort of discount to people, who I'll never see again.
Well, they don't have to do it. Why? Are they?
Right, yeah.
Well, and they haven't.
Yeah.
Or, some of them.
Well, it's not, Amplify is they give direct financial awards
We
to
used
different.
for the Lark Street bid.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we used Amplify money for one of our restaurant weeks to help
Yeah.
publicize and do a mailing and things like that.
Oh, but that's
Yeah.
not what it
Use
has
it-
to be used for.
No,
It's
no,
used
I
for
think
all
it's a lot of
different-
different. You
Yeah.
come up with something and then they put it together.
Yeah. So,
That's another thing
Yeah.
that take a hit this year is Restaurant Week.
yeah.
Anyway,
Sure
Oh,
it
yeah.
is. When is it?
well, ours is April, and then I think the downtown one happens just right after that. So sometime in April.
Anyway, I mean, I'm happy to relay the concerns to Sarah. I mean, we meet a lot and talk a lot about different activities and projects going on. So, I'm happy to let her know the concerns about the amount of the funding and if there's a way to purpose it, I guess, for lack of a better phrase.
Okay.
If not this program year, upcoming program years, it's my only concern with any of these organizations. If we said to them, yeah, you can use your funding, but it has to be used on this, we aren't doing that. I don't know. I hear what you're saying and I get it. I just don't know if it's fair to do that to one organization and not others. But but let me talk with her, see if we can kind of revamp what they're doing, and I can,
Okay.
I think we all, like I said, have to start rethinking the way we're doing things.
So if you could get back to us
Sure.
and let us know, we have a couple of weeks before the
Yep.
Common Council votes on this, and I
Yeah.
think that we can vote this out of the resolution out of committee
Yep.
with a
Okay.
positive.
When do we meet again? Or we're not sure.
Or
The full council is supposed to meet on
6th.
April 6th,
April 6th.
so we're looking at doing that. Yeah, so that's 3 weeks.
Hi.
The land bank meeting, right?
No,
No.
that was
That
canceled.
was canceled.
Because of the
Yeah.
epidemic.
Yeah.
I see. Is it gonna, do you know if it's gonna be regular, if it's gonna, I think it's third Tuesday of every month. You think they're gonna have the regular meeting the next time?
We don't work for the land bank, whereas this is a different meeting completely, but do you know how to get on their website?
Oh, yeah. I've been on there
I
a
would
few
I would
times.
imagine that their website would keep everybody up to date on what they're going to do with their meetings.
Oh, haven't been on there in a few weeks, but,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Okay. Sorry.
That's just
I don't know how that happened.
maybe the front's open, maybe?
No,
It
front's- I
shouldn't
think the
be.
front's always
The
locked.
front's never open.
Yeah.
No?
People are always supposed to come back. Anyway.
Anyway. All right.
So we've
We're done.
established that the public has access.
All
right.
We have.
So, is there, I'd like to hear a motion to pass Resolution 17.31.20R out of committee with a positive recommendation, made by Ms. Love, seconded by Mr. Conti. And so do we want to have any further discussion about this? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. That passes out of committee. Anything further anybody wants to discuss before we adjourn?
No. I think, in terms of future items, I know the housing vacancy survey, I guess there's responses are still out.
Yeah, because they
Rather
didn't
than
get
coming in.
enough responses, and so
It
they.
looked like they
they-
reposted
Do you
it
want me to
again.
Right,
stop
that's what they did, they didn't get
No, this is
responses.
still, we have not.
Oh,
Okay,
But
thank
that's
you.
something that this committee probably would, whenever
Okay.
we get to that point, so.
Yeah, if you could let us know.
Okay.
So there's no RFP, so
They
that we do not
reposted-
have a vendor.
They reissued
Right,
the
so they
RFP.
reissued it.
Okay.
That's what I thought yeah.
So they were gonna
Did
try
they-
to
is it
include
they-
the folks that did the Kingston one. For some reason, they didn't solicit, from them this first
Right.
time around. I don't know.
So when you say that they didn't get enough, you mean they
That's
got,
what, I
is
think,
there a number?
I think Marisa said they didn't get any.
Oh, they didn't get any.
I'm fairly certain. She said there was no interest.
All right. Plus, there was no dollar amount in the RFP. I don't know if we usually do that anyway, but it was probably
Ask her about that.
people were supposed to submit what they would do it for.
We need to get moving on that, figure out how we get that survey done. So if you could bring that up in a leadership non-meeting, is that what happens?
Yeah.
These days?
Not meeting, right.
Yeah.
Faye,
in
could
terms
you
of
make
housing.
sure that Michelle gets a copy
I'll
of
do
this
it right
audio
now.
recording and also of the handouts for today's meeting?
Sure.
I know that there hasn't been any change per what you were saying, but I want to make sure that she had, this should be labeled for being the attachment to the resolution for the meeting that occurred on March 17th,
Okay.
2020.
I'll do that.
All right, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? So by Ms. Love, all in favor?
Aye.
And so we are adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here.
Everybody.
I'm glad we got this out of the way.
Everything else here is,
Thank you very much, Faye.
Thank you.
in terms of fiscal plan.